right, gang, let's get into this Kicking It with Kunkel. And Kicking It with Kunkel this week is y'all. We are going to be chilling, just you and me. And we got a lot to talk about today. Turned into a really busy day. And let's start with Christians. We got one great news with Christian, and we got one bad news with Christian. You guys want to do Texans, or you guys want to do Astros first? Let's do Texans. Okay, Christian Kirk, former Jags wide receiver Nick Caserio makes a trade for him, and he is coming to Houston and returns, sending a 2026 seventh rounder back to Jacksonville. I like it because you don't give anything up. Maybe a little flash in the pan with Kirk. He hasn't been awesome recently. You take a look at his numbers. He hasn't gone over 1,000 yards since 2022. It's the only time he's done it in his career. Last year, he had only 379 yards and one touchdown, played in just 8 games. The year before that, 787 yards, 12 games played and 3 touchdowns. So maybe he gives you a little bit of something. You don't lose a lot. You're probably going to have to give him a new deal because in looking at his contract, it is up after next season. He's under contract for 2025 for $15.5 million. Likely a new deal on the way. Remember, Nick Caserio did this with Joe Mixon last year. The Bengals were going to release Joe Mixon, and Nick was like, let's not let this dude hit the free agent market. I'll come in. I'll give you a 7th rounder. Gave him a 2024 7th round pick, and Joe Mixon turned into the best thing that happened to the Texans offense. The only good thing that happened to the Texans offense last year. So now he does the same thing with Christian Kirk. We'll see what happens. You're not losing a lot. Okay, so Christian Kirk now with the Houston Texans, and now you get a number 2 wide receiver for C.J. Stroud because you didn't have one. Tank Dell's going to miss the 2025 season. That's not a report. That's not a confirmation. That's just my belief, in my opinion, because yesterday, on Wednesday, he had ACL surgery. It takes you at least a year to recover from an ACL surgery alone. He tore everything in the knee, dislocated his knee, so it's going to take a long time for that dude to get back on the field. Of course, I want him back on the field. I'm praying that he gets back out there because number 3 is a fun player to watch. He's an awesome kid. He's a good kid, but sadly right now, he's kind of up against it with the rehab process. All right, the bad news. Skipping around sports, Christian Walker is coming back home from spring training. He's going to be in Houston getting an MRI on his left oblique. Obviously not great news in and of itself, but it's even worse news because last year, I believe it was about a month of time that he missed because of a left oblique issue as well. So, not the news you need from an offense that is trying to replace Alex Bregman at third base and Kyle Tucker in right field. Now, granted, they become a significantly better defensive team with Christian Walker. He doesn't have those guys' bats. Maybe he has a better bat than Alex Bregman in the beginning part of the season, but you losing out on Christian Walker right now, who knows how long he's going to be out. They might shut him down for a handful of weeks if this reveals anything. So obviously stick here on Kicking It With Kunkel, and we'll let you know what happens with Christian Walker because not good news as he's coming home to get an MRI on his left oblique. By the way, if I'm sniffing a lot and wipe my nose, it's because I got a tickle in my nose at the gym, inhaling dust or whatever. So I've been sneezing all day. It's taking me everything to get through this right now for all y'all. Just a little bit of water helps. All right. So that's what we got going on today, being Thursday, a busy day. I put out there what questions you guys have in the sports world, seeing what you guys think about this trade. What do you think about Christian Walker? How you guys feel about everything in Houston sports. So let's get back to the Texans now. So this year, obviously the trade with Christian Christian Kirk, this will be a fun show, does not impact their trade value this year. They have the 25th overall pick. They have a 2nd rounder, 3rd, 4th, 5th, no 6th, and a 7th rounder. So getting Christian Kirk, I don't think really impacts them going out and getting a wide receiver. I think they get a wide receiver. I think the only impact is where they draft. I don't think they no longer really have to get the 25th overall pick and draft a wide receiver that they might like. I think they trade back anyway. It's kind of what Nick likes to do. It's a deep draft class, and they can get a wide receiver a little bit later, some fall. Maybe they go for a tackle a little bit later, or they stay there and get a tackle if one falls to them, which I don't think is going to happen. But they still got to address the offensive line. They still have to address that wide receiver room, and they're probably going to address the defensive tackles as well because D'Amico loves drafting those guys and loves kind of rotating those guys in and out as well. So Texans right now, a little quiet on that front outside of the Christian Kirk news. Nothing big outside of that. Isn't this pleasant? This is what I've been dealing with all day. I think I sneezed 100 times in 1 hour at one point today. My wife kicked me out of the house, so I came in to do this a little bit earlier. Let's talk Houston Cougars. Shout out to Kelvin Sampson and these guys, because early in the season, let's take a look at their schedule earlier in the year. Of course, I don't have it up because they lost to Auburn, and who did they lose to? I don't want to get it wrong. But we thought like maybe this isn't going to be the year. They have to replace Jamal Shed. I mean, when I say we, like, I know that Kelvin Sampson is going to figure this thing out. He's not going to forget how to coach basketball, and he's always going to have good kids. San Diego State and Auburn. They lost to San Diego State in overtime, 73-70 on November 30th. And then prior at the Toyota Center, they lost to Auburn, who, by the way, we figured out is the best team in the country right now. They lost to Texas Tech, the 22nd ranked team, also in overtime. So 2 of their 3 losses coming in overtime, and by a combined 6 points. Dang. That's a good tweet. I'll put that out there at some point. So they wrapped the season up on Saturday at Baylor, a chance to get 19 Big 12 wins. 18, they got their 18th against Kansas, was a Big 12 record. First team to ever do that. This team is awesome. They have a chance to win the Big 12, which is the second best conference in America after the SEC, by 5 games. If they win this weekend, and I believe Texas A&M, is it them? Of course, I got the SEC rankings up right now. I need to get sponsored by Tissues today. It's not A&M, duh. It's Texas Tech, rather. Sorry. Texas Tech, they have a 4-game lead on Texas Tech, which is in 4 games back. Arizona, 4 games back. They're in third place. BYU, 5 games back. Iowa State, 6 games back. So, like, Houston is far ahead of everybody else in the Big 12, by far the best team in this conference. And to win the Big 12, which is a very good conference, by 4 games, maybe 5, incredibly impressive. Now, for you guys that are screaming right now at me that the SEC isn't nearly as good, they're better. Like, they have Auburn, number 1. Number 5, Florida. Number 7, Alabama. Number 4, Tennessee. Number 22, Texas A&M. I don't know why I said that they were in the Big 12. They used to be. And Missouri Tigers, 15. Kentucky, 19. Mississippi State, 25. So they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams in the top 25. Like, that is crazy. Ever since they invested in coaches, they have become a very, very, very good basketball conference. Dare I say a basketball conference. So Cougars are going to be the number 1 team in the Big 12 championship tournament out in Kansas City. So that means they will advance immediately to the quarterfinals. They will play Thursday. They'll probably get there Tuesday, practice Wednesday, play Thursday at 2 o'clock, and then if they win, they will play in the semifinals on Friday. That game will be at 6 o'clock, and if they win that, they'll go to the championship game for the second year in a row, and that game will be on Saturday at 5 o'clock. Remember last year, they got waxed by Iowa State because Iowa State treats that as the biggest event in their school's history. It's like a spring training down in Kansas City. They take over the T-Mobile Center. It is an incredible atmosphere to be a part of. Even if, like, everybody in Houston could be like, I want to go, and it's still, Iowa State's still going to be out there. So save your money, save your tickets. It's going to be an Iowa State fan base if Iowa State makes it that far. But then we get to the national tournament, and this is going to be fun for the Cougs again. Every year they seem to make noise because every year they do make noise. And they're going to be a number 1 seed, barring, a complete collapse down the stretch, which I don't anticipate, of course. Even if they lose, like, the only way I think they get off the 1 seed is if they lose to Baylor and then lose in the first round. That would be the only way. And even then, like, I don't think you discount the rest of their regular season. Maybe they'd certainly drop from probably the 3rd number 1 seed to the 4th. So maybe they go to the best 2 seed. I don't know. But the way I was looking at it, if they're a 1 seed, they'll end up in Wichita. It's the closest place to Houston. They'll play there for 2 rounds, and then it's a crapshoot to see wherever they go. Who knows at that point? So shout out to the Cougs, just playing some awesome basketball. Not playing awesome basketball, the Rockets. This team has just understandably because of the injuries, but they're not playing the same inspired defensive basketball, at least in my mind, as they did in the beginning of the season. In the beginning of the year, they were a top 3 defensive team. I think now they're the points allowed. They're now the 6th best. So that overall ranking, by the way, is really relying heavily on the early part of the season when they played some damn good defensive basketball. They relied on that. So when their shots weren't falling because they're not a great offensive team, they were relying on that defense to go on the road to win them games when they weren't shooting well and getting big stops down the stretches. Hence, they played a lot of close games. But now they're averaging in March, where they're 0-3, 121 points per game allowed. They were averaging 107 at one point. There is a huge gap there. And if you're not a great scoring team, you're not going to be able to win a whole lot of games. Hence, they're 0-3 in the month of March. They have a losing record. I believe they're 2-7 or 5-7, something like that in March. Let's see, in February. Yeah, 5-7 in February. So they're 5-10 in their last 20 games or 15 games, math, in between February and March. In October, November, December, and January, they played winning basketball. Their best months were in November and February, where they went 11-4. Sorry, November and January when they went 11-4. So they got to get back to playing good, sound defensive basketball. That's who this team is. They're not getting away from that. Even if they have a hot shooting night and guys are on fire, that's just not their identity. Everybody can look good when they're making shots. Can the Rockets look good when they're not making shots, which is what they're going to do most of the time because they just don't have that guy that goes off every single night. They don't have LeBron. They don't have Kevin Durant. They don't have Luka Doncic. They don't have Giannis. Whoever it might be. They don't have that guy. So if they don't play great defense, they're not going to be able to win on a night-in, night-out basis. Now, that's pleasant. The injury situation has not been great. Jabari Smith Jr. is back. That is good. Steven Adams has been in and out the lineup all dang year. And Fred VanVleet, who, by the way, they still rely on him to settle things down just too much. I mean, he's a dang good player, obviously. But if he's not in, late game situations, they throw up on themselves constantly. He steadies the ship offensively and defensively. At some point, you got to learn how to play without Fred, whether he's hurt, he's in foul trouble, or when he's no longer here. Some of these guys have to step up and be that leader on the court to get everybody all settled and in their places, because without him, they just look like a completely different team. Now, I've got a little bit of a surprise for everybody. I got to figure out what day this actually is that they're giving this away. So on a March, let's see, what is it? No, next Monday. So what is that? What's next Monday as I record this? So on March 10th, Kenny Smith bobblehead. Get it close to the camera for you. Pretty cool box, pretty cool item. Some of the facts on that. First 3,000 fans that attend March 10th's game will receive the Jet Smith bobblehead. Doors open at 6, tip off at 7. Obviously, Game 1 NBA Finals MVP. In Game 1 of the 95 NBA Finals versus Orlando, Smith hit 7 3-pointers. Okay, you get the idea. Who's good. You know who he is. Get your bobblehead. All right. March 10th, first 3,000 fans in the door. So show up early. Like Houston has issues showing up to games early. That's never a problem at Texans games. No. So anyway, Rockets. It's got to play more inspired basketball. That's it. Let's get back to the Astros. Cam Smith. Where is everybody been about Cam Smith? Man, are people excited about this kid. So far in spring training, 7 at-bats. He has 4 hits, 4 runs, 2 home runs, and 6 RBIs. His average is a .571. His OBP, 727. His OPS, 2.441. The kid is a surefire Hall of Famer. Obviously not. But as the 14th overall pick by the Cubs in 2024, the kid can swing the stick, and he is a tank. 6'3", 225 pounds. Beefy boy Cam Smith was having himself a damn good spring training. What does that mean? What should you expect from Cam because of that? I don't know what's fair. Let's see how he does it a little bit more throughout spring training against big league pitching. When things ramp up a little bit, he'll get called up unless he completely tanks and struggles. We've seen guys do that before, though, by the way. I mean, shoot. Whoa, close. We've seen Aaron Judge come up at one point, and I believe he got sent back down, and he's had a pretty decent career. I know no one wants to talk about him around here, but nonetheless, that is a fact. This is so much fun to do when you can't breathe. Dang mouth breather. But I don't know what's reasonable to expect. Come up and be a starter in your rookie year and mash in the 7th spot. I don't know, maybe 6th spot. Elongate that lineup just a little bit. That's when the Astros were so good, when they had a really long lineup. And that is why, in my mind, moving Jose Altuve from second to left field is so important. Who, by the way, has had some ups and he's had some downs in left field so far in spring training. He misjudged a fly ball, which, by the way, he would never have to have caught in a regular season game. The one he had to run in on and couldn't make the play. Had a bad read initially. I believe he took a step back, which you're supposed to do, but then he couldn't get to it. It was like 10 feet from the infield. The shortstop, Jeremy Pena, grabs that every single time in a regular season game. Although Altuve has the power to call him off as a left fielder running in on it. But he's looked good in left field. He's made, you know why I say that in particularly? Because he has made plays where he's running at the wall, into the wall, making grabs, knowing where the wall is, using the warning track, feeling for the wall, and having that awareness. That's like one of the hardest parts, especially at Dyken Park, where that wall gets on you really quickly. You got to know where that is, because he's not going to win many battles against that wall. It's a big boy, and it's not going to move. So Cam Smith coming up, he will play at third because that's where he's most comfortable. At least that's the way I see it. I know Dana said that he could play in the outfield. There would be a way for him to get some innings in the outfield. I don't know that you want to learn with him in the outfield at the big league level. I just don't see that being the thing, because as he's played, he DHs obviously, but he's only played third base. As I go through this, DH, third base, like last year, yeah, he only played third base. So he's never played any other position. So he's not coming up and learning. He's not getting innings in the outfield at the big league level. It just ain't happening. But you put him at third, Paredes at second. You could put Mauricio Dubon anywhere. And then you have Jose Altuve in left field. And hopefully, like, the linchpin of this season, in part, can Jake Myers hit a little bit more consistently at a higher level? And Chas McCormick, can he go back to his 2023 year and just slap like 25 dongs? If he does that, talk about making this lineup even longer. Now, I think Chaz has it in him. I think he's got it in him more than Jake does, for sure. Whether he does it or not is up to him. Last year was a tough year for that dude. He's a good kid, so I want to obviously see him and everyone else have success. So the Cam Smith thing is interesting because it really can change your franchise around and the projection this year, because you got to replace those bats with Kyle Tucker, like we talked about earlier, and Alex Bregman. So who knows? By the way, if I die on air because I'm drinking out of this cup, it's because I grabbed it out of Ralph. Just ask for Ralph, anyone that's concerned if I go missing. He's the head of promotions, and it had some junk in it. It was the only cup I could find. Damn, anyone else get telemarketer calls like at this hour all the time? I washed it out, but who knows what was in there. And Ralph's a dirty man. Never know what was in there. All right, what else we got today? Let's get to some people's questions. Oh, Cody Stutz asked me a great question. I said, does anybody have any questions on the Houston sports team? And I'm going to actually give my wife a little bit of credit, believe it or not, to an answer to a question that Cody asked. He said, what would you call a Houston hockey team? And I kind of thought about it. I don't know. Someone said the Houston Hockey Club or something like that. You know what's funny is I don't have a problem with those names. I think they're kind of clean looking, the way that you get the logos, like Utah Hockey Club or whatever they're called out there, Salt Lake City, whatever it is. I think it's kind of cool. Well, Hannah said, my wife, why not the Oilers? Like, hell yeah. That'll piss off everybody out in Tennessee. I'm sure that'll go over well. Now, I don't know the legalities of that. I don't know if you can do that. It's a different league. Surely you can. And you could probably use the color scheme. Utah's got one that's similar-ish. Seattle has a blue in there, the Jets. But you can use some sort of color scheme like that. And then the NFL sent a cease and desist letter to the Houston Cougars that they couldn't use that color scheme because it's infringement or whatever. And Houston said, kick rocks, pound sand, kid, because we're going to do it. That was last year. They did it again this year. I know they changed the stripe on their helmet, which is a bummer because I love that stripe. But what about the Houston Oilers for a hockey team? Oh, you can't, you dumbass. Edmonton Oilers. Hey, you just got me in trouble. Edmonton Oilers. How did I not even think of that with McJesus on the team? I don't know then. I was all set on that being a fun answer. I should call her live, but I'm not going to. That'd be funny, though. She gave me that idea. You know, here I am just being a trusting husband that's a great idea. I don't know. Does it have to be something with space? Like, I don't know. Houston Hockey Club, I always like it because it's going to be clean. All right, what else? I think the biggest things to be concerned with, though, is Christian Walker right now coming back here getting an MRI in his left oblique. Less than ideal situation. Missed time last year because of that injury. We'll see what the MRI says. I don't love that he's coming back for it and has to miss more games and miss more time, that they deem it even necessary to get an MRI because he was scratched yesterday on Wednesday because of the injury, and now he's getting an MRI on it. So, not great. Shout out to Darian Gumbawale, by the way, for signing a one-year deal. Kicker, special teamer, running back for the Houston Texans, a do-it-all guy, great locker room dude, awesome guy. I believe he has been on Kickin It With Kunkel. Yes, he has. We asked him to pronounce his name, the weird pronunciations that he's gotten with his name. And then I put a video out there with Nico Collins and Neville Hewitt pronouncing Go's name as they tried. They failed miserably. It was hilarious. Like, I was shocked that they couldn't get it because you hear, I know they're all locked in, but you hear his name all the time. But I know if you never really think about it and you never have to pronounce it properly and it's not what you call him, then like whatever, it just kind of goes by the wayside. It's like when someone introduces your name, introduces themselves to you, they tell you their name, and then you give them your name, etc. Right? Like you do when you meet somebody, but you forgot their name, and by the time you see him again, it's like a month later. It's like you can't ask for his name again, so you just call Dari whatever the hell everybody in the locker room calls him. I assure you, they don't call him Gumbawale. But anyway, that video is hilarious. It's on my X account right now at Will Kunkel Fox. I'm going to wrap this thing up soon because, man, my nose is just firing away. One thing I want to talk about it real quickly is what I learned at the Combine, and it is that the offensive line room will look different. I don't think Shaq Mason will be back. They've got to fix it. C.J. Stroud didn't look good last year because of it. The offense was a damn disaster. I don't know how much Nick Caley's going to be able to fix it in and of himself. You got to have dudes up there. I want them to fix their mentals in that offensive line room. I want them to be a bunch of a-holes. I want them to push guys around. I want them to finish blocks. I want them to be mean and gruff and tough and set the tone for that offense, especially if they're going to be a run-first offense with Joe Mixon. Now, they were kind of that last year out of default because they couldn't protect anybody. I mean, remember after the Super Bowl, everyone was like, oh, my God, the pressure rate that Patrick Mahomes faced was astronomical. Well, C.J. Stroud faced a higher one all season long. And that will screw anybody up. I just pray that it won't screw up his career because I want him to be able to stand tall and have an awesome career that I think he can have. Very quickly, I just want to shout out Adam Spillane, formerly of 6'10", said he's now done and out of 6'10". Like, Adam was an awesome dude. I learned a lot from him when I first got here to learn about the Houston sports scene. He's educated, he's knowledgeable, he's well-measured. And whenever he talks, you learn from that dude because he knows quite a bit. All right, that's going to do it for Kicking It With Kunkel this week. I appreciate y'all hanging in here for about 26 minutes. Give it a like, click it, and spread it, and share it, and do all of that for me, please. You can find this on Fox Local as well. Next week, we're headed to the Big 12 tournament, and then we head all over the country for the NCAA tournament until the Cougs call it quits. That's going to do it. Thanks, y'all. Peace.